Welcome, dear listeners. Tonight, you're about to witness a story that proves how destiny hides in the smallest of moments. Sometimes it doesn't arrive with thunder, but with the quiet slam of a taxi door on a rainy night. This is not just another story. It's one that will touch your heart and stay with you long after it ends. The city of Westford was drowning in rain. Neon lights flickered across the wet pavement, casting colors that melted into puddles like spilled paint. Traffic honked endlessly, headlights creating rivers of gold across the slick streets. At the center of this chaos, Alexander Reed, known to the world as a sharp, untouchable millionaire, stood drenched, clutching his phone like a lifeline. His evening had collapsed. A business dinner gone wrong, investors walking out, and his assistant's voice repeating in his head, "You can't afford another scandal, Alex." But Alex didn't care about the headlines tonight. Something deeper was gnawing at him, though he couldn't name it. When a yellow taxi skidded to a stop on the opposite corner, Alex didn't think twice. He splashed across the street, yanked the door open, and slid in, tossing his soaked jacket onto the seat. Downtown. Pine Street. "Just drive. I'll pay double if you hurry." The driver shifted uncomfortably. "Sir, this cab isn't empty." Alex froze, lifting his gaze for the first time. In the far corner sat a woman. Her face was partially hidden beneath the hood of a navy coat, but her eyes, sharp, guarded, unforgettable. He hadn't seen those eyes in nearly 7 years. His breath caught. "Emily?" he whispered, her lips pressed into a thin line. "You can share the ride," she said flatly, her voice steady, though a tremor clung to its edges. And then Alex saw him. A small boy, 6, maybe 7, sat curled against her side. His hair was tousled, his cheeks pale from the cold, but his eyes, amber brown, glowing even in the dim cab light. Eyes Alex knew all too well because they were his own. The world outside melted into silence. The storm, the horns, the chaos, it all vanished, leaving only the pounding of his own heart. For a moment, Alex couldn't speak. He stared at the boy as if staring at a living echo of himself. His chest tightened with something between wonder and fear. Emily shifted uncomfortably, pulling the child closer. "We're heading to St. Mary's Hospital." "Driver, let's go." The cab lurched forward. Alex wanted to speak, to demand answers, but words felt heavy, stuck in his throat. He glanced at Emily, her face tired but strong, her expression unreadable. 7 years ago, she had walked out of his life without a word, and he had buried that pain under money, power, and headlines. He thought he had forgotten her, but seeing her now, seeing him, the wound ripped open. The boy kicked his legs idly, clutching a small plush toy, oblivious to the storm raging inside the man seated across from him. Then, sensing Alex's gaze, the boy looked up. Their eyes locked. For a fleeting second, it felt like looking into a mirror of his own childhood. Your son?" Alex finally managed to whisper. Emily's jaw tightened. She turned her gaze to the rain outside. "Not your concern." The words hit harder than a bullet, but Alex couldn't let them go. Not when the boy's every feature screamed his blood. Not when his heart was unraveling with each passing second. The taxi rumbled on through the storm. The boy hummed softly, playing with his toy. Emily clutched a crumpled envelope in her lap, her knuckles white. Alex's eyes lingered on it. Something about the way she held it made him uneasy, as if it carried more weight than paper should. The hospital lights soon appeared in the distance, glowing pale against the night. Emily straightened, preparing to leave. "Wait," Alex blurted, his voice rough. "Emily, why didn't you—" But she cut him off with silence. Not the silence of indifference, but the silence of someone who has lived through storms and has no strength left to explain them. The taxi stopped. Emily gathered her bag, helped the boy down, and without sparing another glance at Alex, she stepped into the rain. The boy looked back once, lifting a small hand in a shy wave before disappearing through the hospital doors. Alex sat frozen, his world spinning. The rain outside blurred his vision, or maybe it was something else. The driver looked at him through the rearview mirror, his expression unreadable. "Life's funny, huh?" the driver muttered. "Sometimes the wrong taxi takes you exactly where you were meant to go." Alex leaned back against the seat, his chest heavy. For the first time in years, money and power felt meaningless. Something far greater had just walked out of that taxi, leaving him shaken, desperate, and uncertain of what came next. He knew one thing, though. This was not the end. It was only the beginning. The rain had slowed by the time Alex stepped out of the taxi, but inside him the storm only grew stronger. He stood outside the glowing hospital entrance, watching the doors swing open and shut as people hurried in and out, each one carrying their own burden. Yet for Alex, it felt as though every step forward would change his life forever. His legs felt heavy, but his heart pulled him ahead, refusing to let this moment pass into silence. He pushed through the sterile halls of St. Mary's, the smell of disinfectant sharp, the echo of hurried footsteps around him. His mind replayed the boy's eyes again and again, each glance reminding him of a truth he had never been prepared to face. When he finally saw her down the corridor, seated on a hard bench with the child resting against her lap, it was like watching a dream he never thought he'd live again. Emily's face was calm, but her hands twisted the crumpled envelope she had carried, her eyes flicking to the hospital doors with unspoken fear. She had not noticed him yet, and for a moment Alex stood frozen, afraid to shatter the fragile stillness. The boy stirred, lifting his head, his gaze landing on Alex as though he had been expecting him all along. That small smile, that simple look, it broke down walls Alex had built for years. His chest tightened with a rush of longing and guilt. He stepped forward, his voice soft but trembling. "Emily, we need to talk." She finally looked up at him, her eyes guarded, tired, but burning with stories she wasn't ready to share. For the first time in years, Alex realized he had everything, yet nothing, and in front of him sat the only truth that mattered. The question was, would she ever let him be part of it? Emily's eyes lingered on Alex as if every second was a battle between speaking and staying silent. She clutched the boy closer, shielding him as though Alex were still the man who once broke her trust. The hallway buzzed with noise, nurses wheeling carts, announcements echoing overhead. But for Alex, the world narrowed to the small circle where the three of them stood. He took a hesitant step forward, searching her face for some trace of softness, some doorway back into the life he once knew. But her walls were strong, built over years of surviving without him. The boy tilted his head curiously, his little voice breaking the tension. "Mom, who is he?" The simple question struck Alex harder than any accusation could. His lips parted, but Emily's hand rose quickly, silencing him. "Just someone we used to know," she said firmly, though her voice cracked under the weight of the lie. Alex's heart twisted. He wanted to kneel, to explain, to tell the boy that his eyes mirrored his own because they belonged to the same blood. But he felt like an intruder in a story already written without him. A doctor approached, calling Emily's name, and she stood, gathering her bag in one hand, her son in the other. Without another glance, she followed the doctor down the corridor, leaving Alex frozen in place. The hook was buried deep now. He couldn't walk away. Something inside told him that whatever truth Emily was hiding, it wasn't just about the past. It was about the future, and whether he would be brave enough to fight for it. Alex couldn't make himself leave. Hours seemed to blur as he remained seated in the cold hospital waiting area, his mind locked in a storm of questions that refused to quiet. Every time the double doors swung open, he half expected Emily to reappear, but it was always strangers, families clutching flowers, worried faces carrying hope or grief. He pressed his palms together, remembering the way the boy had looked at him, as if some unspoken bond had already been recognized. That look had pierced deeper than anything he had felt in years. Finally, when Emily stepped out again, her shoulders slumped from exhaustion, Alex rose to his feet instantly. The boy trailed beside her, holding her hand with a sleepy trust that made Alex's throat tighten. He tried to approach gently, his voice low. "Emily, please. I need to understand. You can shut me out, but don't shut me out of him." She froze, her back still turned to him, and for a moment it seemed she would keep walking. Then she slowly turned, her eyes glistening under the harsh hospital lights. "You had your chance years ago," she whispered. "I raised him alone because I couldn't count on you. You were chasing a life I was never part of." Alex felt his chest ache, because he knew some of her words held truth. Yet he also knew he couldn't let this moment slip into the same silence that had stolen years from them. He stepped closer, his voice trembling but firm. "Maybe I lost the past, Emily, but don't take away the future too." The boy looked between them, confusion in his young eyes. Destiny had opened its door, and Alex realized he couldn't leave without walking through it. Emily's silence was louder than any outburst could have been. She studied Alex with a guarded expression, as though weighing whether his words were just another promise that would eventually dissolve. The boy tugged gently at her hand, his wide eyes fixed on Alex, sensing there was something more between them than she had ever explained. The tension wrapped around them, fragile but unbreakable, until Emily finally exhaled, her voice trembling. "You don't get to walk back into our lives just because fate tossed you into the same taxi. He's not a prize to be claimed. He's my whole world." Alex nodded slowly, his heart pounding as he fought to keep desperation from cracking his voice. "I don't want to take him from you. I just want the chance to know him, to make up for what I failed to be." The boy tilted his head, curiosity glimmering, as though he were piecing together the truth Emily had tried so long to protect. Alex lowered himself to one knee, softening his tone, speaking directly to him. "I'm Alex, and I think maybe we're more connected than you know." The boy studied him, clutching his toy tighter, then offered a shy smile that nearly broke Alex apart. Emily's eyes watered, though she quickly blinked it away, hiding her emotion behind anger. "Don't confuse him," she said, her voice breaking even as she tried to stay strong. Alex didn't move, his gaze steady. "He deserves the truth, Emily, and so do we." Her breath caught, her resolve wavering, as though destiny itself was demanding she stop running. The boy's small hand slipped from Emily's grasp, and he stepped toward Alex with innocent boldness that neither of them had expected. His eyes, those same amber-brown reflections, searched Alex's face with a curiosity too pure to be denied. "Mom," he whispered, tugging at her sleeve, "why does he look like me?" The question shattered the fragile wall Emily had built for years. Her lips trembled, and for once she had no ready answer. Alex's chest burned, but for the first time in years he felt clarity. He lowered himself so he was eye level with the child, his voice gentle, steady, yet breaking under the weight of truth. "Because, son, sometimes life keeps people apart who should never have been separated." Emily's breath caught, her tears threatening to fall as she realized the moment she had feared had come, and there was no running from it anymore. The boy blinked, his small hand resting against Alex's, a natural bond forming in silence. Emily turned her face away, but her voice wavered. "I didn't want him to grow up knowing what it felt like to be abandoned. I couldn't let him live with broken promises." Alex shook his head firmly, his own voice raw with emotion. "Then let me show you both I've changed. Let me fight for him, for you, for the family I should have protected all along." The hospital lights above flickered, and the night seemed to hush, as if the universe itself leaned in to witness this fragile, life-altering moment. Emily's tears finally fell, her walls crumbling, as destiny offered them not just a second chance, but the only chance that truly mattered.